Welcome back, everyone. It's Kimberly Tracy here to bring you The Stranger Within, where we last left off. Hannah had just heard from her mother the devastating news that rang true that her little sister Jenna had passed away. Chapter 1. Hannah sits on the edge of her daybed, looking out the window. She can see the family gathering down below the patio around the table. Ma had put beautiful lilies around the garden arch that connected the patio to the driveway. Jenna would have adored them, especially the stargazers next to the Easter lilies. A lone tear begins to roll down Hannah's cheek as she remembers her sister. Jenna was only 16, so young and innocent still. She was a wallflower, someone who did not know their own beauty. Hannah gently lifts her hand and wipes the tear away. She has been trying to keep it together for days now, but she is afraid that she will break soon. The grieving process would not be easy, but she already knew this from the aftermath of the accident. Hannah hears slight murmurs from down below as she drifts back to a memory of the night before her life was changed. La 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 la, I can't hear you, Hannah sings while she plugs her ears and sways her body back and forth. Hannah often acted this way when teasing her little sister. After all, did not most siblings tease each other, she thought? Even in television shows, the siblings tease each other from time to time about small things. It wasn't but a few days ago that Jenna was teasing her. Hannah, stop it, Jenna shouted as she gripped the edge of her mattress. The anger that was building inside of her for some time already was about to erupt. Jenna had little patience left, especially to deal with Hannah's games. She could not understand why Hannah could not be serious. It seemed that every time she tried to talk with Hannah, her sister would ignore her or start teasing her. I'm just teasing you. Hannah smiled, then asked, What's wrong with you? In a confused voice. It was not like Jenna to lose her cool so fast. She was normally the calm one. It wasn't like this was the first time that she did this. Jenna lets out a sigh. It's just... And she trails off in a somber tone to unrecognizable babbles. Never mind, I'm gonna go for a run. And with that, Jenna grabbed her running jacket off the bedpost as she slipped into her running shoes and headed towards the door. Just wait, I'll go with you. Hannah tried to get out of bed as quickly as possible, but it was already too late. Jenna left the room swiftly with her phone in hand, and earbuds in. Hannah was still fighting with the sheet before she managed to get out of the bed. I cried my last tear. I let my world implode. It's been a rough year. I'm ready to go. Tears began to roll down Jenna's face as she raced down the stairs. Hannah heard the door close behind Jenna. Little did Hannah know what was the last conversation she would have with her little sister. The last impression either would have of the other. Their last shared memory together. If only it could have been a better one. Hannah begins to drift back to the present day, looking over Jenna's bed, and begins to sigh. Her chest becomes tighter, tension fills her shoulders. A sharp pain shoots through her back, and then tears begin to fall. Hannah could not help but wonder, was there something I could have done differently? She wonders, is this all my fault somehow? After all, she was the big sister. She had been there to protect Jenna. How was she supposed to know, though? Jenna kept so many secrets from her family and friends, either out of shame or guilt or embarrassment, secrets that were yet to be discovered. Shifting her focus to the window, Hannah noticed that her ma is headed back to the house, surely to call for her. Hannah decided that it was time to get dressed for the day. She had been prolonging it as if that would prevent the truth from existing. Maybe I can just stay here and avoid the pain of facing everyone, she thought. Deep down, she knew that no matter how hard she wished for everything to be a nightmare that she could awake from, it would never come true. She would have to live out the rest of her days without her little sister. There would be no more late night chats or strolls through the woods. No more jokes between them or new memories formed. Hannah pulled the black dress over her head, then wiggled it down her torso. The dress fell just above Hannah's knees. The top was covered with the sheer lace floral design that barely covered her shoulders. There's a thick sash just below the bust line that tied in the back. The rest flowed down and away from Hannah's body. Hannah smoothed the shoulders down of the dress, then moved her arms slowly across her torso to tie the back. Then she adjusted the bottom of the dress so the layers lay just right. Once the dress was finally situated, Hannah sat back down to slide on her ballerina flats. Her hair showed signs of disarray from all the tossing and turning the night before. Hannah grabbed her hairbrush off the nightstand and began to tend to her matted hair. She decided to pull her chestnut brown hair into a low side ponytail. That would keep it off her neck in this hot spring day. Hannah debates putting on makeup, but then wonders, why bother? I'll just look a mess by the end of the service. Hannah, sweetheart, are you coming down? Everyone is waiting, Ma said through the door in a concerned tone. Unsure if she should open the door, Ma decides to wait for a moment for Hannah to respond. She lightly places her hand on the door. After debating the question for a bit, Hannah responds, Yeah, I was just getting ready. Hannah raised from her daybed and headed towards the dresser to return her makeup. The room was airy without Jenna there anymore. Her stuff was still thrown about her half of the room just as she left it that night. Hannah was convinced that if she left it that way, then it would feel like Jenna might still come home. They should have been getting ready for a fun outing with family, but instead this outing was filled with sorrow. Hannah then moved to open the door. She saw her ma standing there. She wore the beautiful violet flowy shirt that Jenna had purchased for her earlier that year. The shirt had large flowers on the bottom that shrunk down to nothing as they reached the top of the shirt. The sleeves fell below her shoulders and elbow and were bare of flowers. Ma tied it together with a pair of black capri leggings and strappy sandals. Her long curly hair was pulled into an up twist with small curls of strawberry blonde cascading downward. How are you feeling, honey? Ma calmly asked as she entered the room. She placed her hand on the small of Hannah's back as they walked toward the bed. Ma sat down beside Hannah, then leaned over and wrapped her arms around her daughter's shoulders. She gave a gentle squeeze, then let go of Hannah for a moment. Like I want to wake up from this horrible nightmare? It isn't fair. Why did this have to happen? Hannah was clearly distraught, and Mom knew just what to do to help ease some of the pain. Again, Mom leaned over and wrapped her arms around Hannah's shoulders. Then she began to rub them softly as she delicately rocked back and forward. This was the same method Ma used to help soothe Hannah as a young child whenever she was upset. It was how Ma smoothed her after the accident happened as well. I know, sweetheart, we just have to remember to be there for one another. Ma continued rubbing Hannah's upper arms as she rocked back and forth. Hannah wondered, how am I supposed to help Ma get through this when even I cannot wrap my head around it? But it's not Hannah's job to protect her Ma. Nothing meant sex to Hannah, but how could she tell her Ma that? Hannah knew that they had a hard day ahead of themselves, a day of fake smiles and thanking people who barely even knew Jenna. Ma and Hannah both have to try hard to fight the tears today, but no one would blame them if they could not keep them back. Ma, I will. After all, who else did Hannah have now? It would just be the two of them until she returned to school. That's even if she goes back to school this year. Hannah knew that she could withdraw from the spring semester if needed. That's what she ultimately did after the accident, even though she did not want to. It set Hannah behind schedule, but it was better than failing the semester. Although she really wanted to finish her degree this year, she might have to wait until the dust settles, if it settles. Ma pulls her arms form around Hannah and slowly rises. Let's head down, she stated as she gestures towards the doorway. Ma reaches over the nightstand and grabs a tissue for Hannah's tears. She holds the tissue out for Hannah and begins slowly to rub her arm. Hannah slowly reaches her arm out to take the tissue. It's the small things that Ma did for the girls that made them feel loved. Hannah gathers herself, wiping the tears away from her eyes with the tissue. Thankful she decided against the makeup, otherwise it would have been running down her face right now. When she stands up, the dress requires a little readjusting. She and Ma head out the room, then down the stairs towards the back porch. Hannah could see onto the patio as she descended the stairs. Aunt Esther was sitting on the end of the table, followed by Uncle Henry and their daughter Emma. Ma's parents had both passed away when Hannah was a baby, so it was a small gathering. Hannah knew that her mom needed more people there, but her dad's sister stopped talking to her after the accident happened. Hannah thought for sure that something of this magnitude would bring them back. She missed her Aunt Joan and Cousin Ava dearly. After all, it had been a few months since she had seen them. Hannah and Ma entered the back porch. It was more of a greenhouse with the large sliding door and all the windows that wrapped around than a part of the house. The majority of their home had oak floors, but this room had tiger stone installed as the flooring. Her dad thought it would make the room feel more outdoorsy. The small portion of the room that had walls was painted serene sky. At least that's what the name of the blue was. Unfortunately, the uneasiness of the day took away any sense of comfort this area normally brought them. On the table in the room was a pitcher of freshly squeezed strawberry lemonade. It was Jenna's favorite summer beverage. Ma picked up the pitcher and headed towards the sliding door. Hannah opened the door for Ma and followed behind her onto the patio. "There she is!" shouted Henry as Hannah walked through the sliding glass door onto the stone. She was gazing down at the ground as she entered, time with her hair falling in front of her face. Hannah turned and pulled the door shut behind herself before responding to Henry. "Hi," Hannah says quietly. "Sorry, I was just..." And she trailed off. Hannah was still looking downward, even though she knew it was rude not to look at someone when talking to them. This was just extremely difficult for Hannah to do today. No matter how hard she tried to fight it, the tears kept coming. Her eyes became a leaky faucet. Hannah reached down to the table and looked for a napkin to wipe her tears again. Emma looked directly at Hannah. "Why are you sad?" Hannah did not know how to answer her. After all, how do you tell a 4-year-old that their cousin is gone forever? That there would be no more sleepovers, no more days at the park together, no more Jenna. It was a hard concept for Hannah to comprehend, and she was already a young adult. Not that she did not understand the concept of death, she was just perplexed about Jenna's death. It didn't sit right with her. Hannah knew this was a different feeling than despair. "It's okay, sweetie. It's just a sad day for Hannah and Aunt Autumn," Esther explained as swiftly as the question arose. She knew that Hannah should not have to answer Emma's questions, especially questions surrounding the death of a family member. "But why, Mommy?" Emma still questioned, knowing that her aunt and cousin were sad without understanding why was not enough for her. She wanted to see Hannah how she normally did, running around and playing games in the grass with her. Esther took another approach. "As you get older, sweetie, you will understand. Remember what happened with Floppy?" She looked down with sympathetic eyes, hoping she could relate on some level. "He got sick. I can't see him now." Emma started to pout at the thought. She crossed her arms, whining, "I miss Floppy." And out came a small cry. Esther knew that thinking of the rabbit would bring back some memories for Emma, but also remind her of the pain she felt that day the rabbit passed away. "Well, sweetie, when you miss someone or something, you love it. It makes you feel sad. Aunt Autumn and Hannah just miss your cousin Jenna very much. Esther had a way of talking to kids like they were adults while carefully withholding details. It was her gift. As far as Emma was concerned, Jenna would just become a distant memory. It probably was better to explain it that way, just as being gone from our lives, not from this world. Hannah was not sure if she could continue to stand by the table to or to take a seat by Emma. The temperature was already rising, and it was still early. The fresh glass of strawberry lemonade was placed in front of Hannah by her ma. It was just what she needed to start this unbearable day. The glass was so cool that the condensation started almost immediately. Without hesitation, Hannah picked up the glass and began to drink it. She finished nearly half of the glass before settling down. Hannah decided to sit down herself until the limo arrived. She did not understand why they had to take a limo to the funeral home. Weren't limos for celebrities? This was quite the opposite. How's school going? Henry asked Hannah, but she just stared off into space toward the road, flashing back to moments of that night. The night that it all started, or so she thought. Hannah, hello? Oh, school? It seemed as if the idea of attending school was foreign to Hannah. She had not been to school in over a week, and the thought of returning was too much for her to grasp at this time. After all, if she can hardly handle carrying on a conversation, how is she supposed to focus in class? She knew it would be difficult, but for how long she did not know. Summer courses definitely were out of the picture for Hannah, though. Yes, are you taking up any sports? Henry was trying his best to maintain some sense of normalcy for the family, asking the typical questions he would at any family function. But it was hard for Hannah to concentrate. All she could think about was that night where the nightmare began and life seemed to stop. Sports? No, Hannah quickly responded. School is good. It wasn't like her to be so short with anyone. Usually she was the life of the party, telling lavish stories, but how could she at a time like this? Replaying that night over and over again in her head, Hannah felt that she was missing something, a small detail that would clear everything up. But what? What am I overlooking? Hannah wondered. Hannah looked off towards the road again. There wasn't another house for a quarter mile. It was peaceful living off a cul-de-sac for now. Unfortunately, the area was up and coming, and soon enough there would be cookie-cutter houses surrounding them. Ma thought about selling the house after the accident, but Jenna and Hannah begged her not to sell it. Without Jenna around, keeping the house seemed unbearable to Hannah now. These past few days had been hard enough being back home. She barely could sleep at night without Jenna there in the room. Hannah could not understand how her ma did it after the accident. At least when Hannah was at school, she could pretend that everything was normal back home. I see a limo! Shouted Emma. She had only seen them on television so far. Esther knew that she would be thrilled at how roomy the back was once they entered, especially since it was large enough to hold 8 people and there were only 5 of them. Not that Emma took up much space. Does everyone have everything? Ma asked the group. She was always prepared for anything, no matter the circumstances. Hannah was certain that in the tiny clutch of her ma there was some tissue and hand sanitizer. Did everyone get a chance to use the restroom? She asked by moving back towards the table. No worry, Autumn. I got it, Henry stated as he cleared the glasses off the table. After Henry had it into the house, Hannah stood up and began collecting the garbage to assist him, and followed him into the house. In no time they had the table cleared of all the debris. Henry pulled the sliding door shut behind himself, then headed towards his family. Come on, Emma, let's go to the limo, Esther called as she reached out for Emma's hand. Emma took her ma's hand, and they all headed towards the garden arch. Emma was lucky to have such adoring parents. Hannah had lost that safety after the accident, which felt like ages ago now. Henry, Esther, Emma all climbed into the limo knowing that it would take some time to get Emma situated. Henry took the first seat across from the door. Esther and Emma sat in the front corner by the driver's window. Mommy, Daddy, look, a television! Look, a fridge! Emma was fascinated by everything. It was surprising that she could even sit still for a minute. The floor of the limo was black carpeting with small red dots throughout it. Next to the door was a bar which contained a miniature refrigerator. At both the front and back corners of the limo were seats, in addition to those across from the door and bar were more seats. Hannah locked up the house behind herself for Ma and headed towards her. She noticed that Ma looked around the patio with a despondent look on her face. It was hard seeing Ma like this. She normally was such a strong woman, one who would never show defeat. Heartbreak is different, though. It's as if you cannot escape the pain. Over time, it begins to leak out onto your face. It becomes more difficult to hide your pain from others. With every "how are you holding up," you want to break apart just a little more. By the end of it all, you will try to vanish into thin air just to get some fresh air. Ma carried a computer paper box filled with photographs of Jenna growing up, prayer cards to hand out at the service, a guest book to be filled out for the thank you cards, clothespins and string to hang the photos. The box must weigh over 40 pounds, thought Hannah as she watched her ma try to lift it into the limo. Hannah looked over at the driver who was holding the limo door open. That's when she realized that it was not the first time she had seen him, but she couldn't place where she knew him from. Hannah studied his facial features to see if it jogged her memory. Sandy blonde hair, green eyes, a square jawline. Hannah thought hard for a minute. Perhaps this was just a side gig, and this man was usually doing a different job. Hannah thought about that night again, wondering if that's where she knew him from. Good morning, all. My condolences, the driver stated in a monotone voice. The first fake interaction of the day, unless you counted Henry's 21 questions. Hannah could not place the voice either, deep and raspy. She knew that it would bother her until she remembered where she knew him from. Perhaps he drove one of my friend's parents for a night out of the town, pondered Hannah. That was unlikely, though, since most of their friends lived farther away from here. It was doubtful that they would have found the same limo service. Hannah thought about that night again, digging deeper this time. Hannah, are you still awake? Jenna tries to whisper across the room, but with her earbuds in, she could hardly hear herself. It's impossible to sleep with your music playing so loud, Hannah snipped back at her while tossing her pillow. Can I tell you something? Jenna nervously asked her sister after turning off her music. La 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 la, I can't hear you, Hannah sings as she plugs her ears. Hannah wonders, what did Jenna have to say that night? What could have been so important to cause her to storm off the way she did? Why did she take her running shoes? It was late that night, too late for a run. Jenna knew the rules about lights out and curfew, but still she broke them both that night. Hannah tries to go deeper into the memory, searching for more details. Hannah, let's go, Ma says as she nudges Hannah towards the limo. Hannah shakes her head as if shaking an etch-a-sketch. Both go into the limo and sit at the opposite side of Esther and Emma. What took you so long? Henry asked them. He was always one to start a conversation regardless of the circumstances. Hannah would have rather just sat in silence, staring out the window. Henry wouldn't have it that way, though. Did you get lost in the patio maze? He joked. We were just collecting everything, Ma responded, pointing to the box filled to the top and difficult for Ma to carry. There must have been over 100 pictures in that box. Jenna was always taking pictures whenever she went out with friends. Not that she went out often, but she documented every moment. If a moment was not captured absolutely right, she would make you pose for it again. I guess that's why Jenna always looks so happy in photographs. Perhaps she was faking smiles for her whole life. I can see. Do you need help when we arrive? Henry asked, pointing towards the box. He could tell that the box was heavy by the way Ma had set it down. Thank you, that would be wonderful, exclaimed Ma. You would not believe it. Paper and string become heavy when so much was put together. Ma had grown tired just carrying it from the patio to the limo. With that settled, they all sat in silence, just as Hannah wanted from the start. It was peaceful, not hearing anything for the time being. Again, Hannah flashes back to the night, thinking back to after Jenna ran out the door. Hannah quickly ran towards the window. As she looked down, she could see Jenna taking off, running towards the trails near the river. Jenna wore her strawberry blonde hair in a messy bun, her new pale pink Under Armour outfit on, and gray running shoes. As far as Hannah could see, Jenna was alone. She digs deeper into her memory, and then she recalls something. There was a car pulling down the road, a car she had never seen before. Could this car be connected somehow? Hannah wonders. Thank you, everyone. I hope that you enjoyed chapter number 1. If so, please make sure to like and subscribe to my podcast. That way that you can get updated every time a new chapter hits. Thank you and have a wonderful day.